Hello again. Somebody commenting here reproved me this morning for not saying a few words to indicate that I was sorry the Queen was dead and that I had appreciated her life of service. As an Englishman, I find that kind of thing unnecessary and even a little vulgar. I take loyalty to the Crown for granted in fellow Englishmen and women, and I would be shocked to discover that anybody does not, as I do, feel a strong sense of allegiance to the monarch. It is, I think, not something I need to say out loud or make explicit. The kings and queens of England are to me the sinews and bones which knit up the history of the country. Alfred the Great, William the Conqueror, Richard the Lionheart, the Plantagenets, Tudors and Stuarts, these are what England is made of. Like everybody of a certain age, I remember finding pennies in my change, before decimalisation of course, which went back all the way to Queen Victoria. I was able to look at coins like that with Victoria's head on them, Edward VII, George V, George VI, and this gave me a framework of English history going back a century or so. I remember my grandmother told me how she had actually seen Queen Victoria riding in her carriage during the Diamond Jubilee. The kings and queens of England mean a great deal to me. Here is something which I noticed when looking at the news coverage outside Buckingham Palace. At the 2011 census, it was discovered that white British people make up just 43% of Londoners, which, by the by, is pretty shocking, but we'll return to that perhaps in a video at a later date. I suspect that the percentage of white English people in London is a good deal lower now. There are over 1 million black people living in the capital. The crowds gathered outside Buckingham Palace, though, consist almost entirely of white British people, as can be seen in the thumbnail to this video, which was taken earlier today. A few Indians are there, some of them tourists, but where are the black people who turned out for the Notting Hill Carnival the other week? Why are those crowds so ethnically homogenous? The same thing was observed during the Platinum Jubilee in the summer, when Pall Mall was heaving with crowds and not a black person in sight. What has become of our vibrant, multi-ethnic city? It is by way of being an article of faith among white liberals that a black person or Indian or Lithuanian is as British as a child born of white English family if they're born in this country. But of course that's not true. The fact is that families with their roots in this country care far more about it than those whose parents only arrived a few years ago. I care about the monarchy in a way that no Jamaican is ever likely to do, which is why, of course, no Jamaicans or the children of Jamaicans born in this country turned up at Buckingham Palace. It takes more than a British passport to make somebody British, and while we are at the moment handing out British passports hand over fist, this doesn't create British people with British values and a deep and abiding interest in the welfare of Britain. It is at times like this that it becomes abundantly clear that being born and raised in Britain does not really make one British in any meaningful way. It probably takes at least a century or two for a family to become British, not just a few decades. Those who believe that the children of the Windrush generation are as British as our own children are deceiving themselves, for if this really were so, then those children of the immigrants who came here in the 1940s and 1950s would probably be as affected as the rest of us about the death of the Queen, and be standing outside Buckingham Palace along with other white people in the crowd